Good morning. Happy September. First, I have to apologize for my voice. I have some sort of cough, cold thing going on. And so I know I sound kind of wild today, but we're just going to do it. We're just going to power through it. Today I wanted to talk about how to handle difficult guests without making it awkward. And after I scheduled this, I was like, maybe difficult was like too harsh of a word because everybody can be difficult and it's not I can be difficult. What I'm saying is that having guests on your show automatically kind of creates a wild card element to streaming where there's somebody that you can't control, something that like variables that you're not going to be able to be in charge of, that kind of thing. And I've seen more often than not, a host is completely prepared, 100% ready to go, and the guest comes on and can create some chaos. And so here's like my tips on how to kind of mitigate that chaos as a host or a producer. Hi, James. Good to see you. I'm sure you have lots of experience with maybe, let's not call them difficult guests, but let's call them learning opportunity guests. Let's call them that. So I am going to talk about, first of all, some new StreamYard features. I'll share those before we start. We're going to talk about how to find cool guests, how to get these cool guests to join you on your show, and then how to make sure your guests join on time and what to do to kind of keep guests on track. So those are the things that I'm going to talk about, and we will just go through as always. Please feel free to like chime in with your own experiences, or if you have any questions, please feel free to add those in the comments, of course. See, I knew you knew, James. So anybody who doesn't know me, here's a little about me. I am a live stream producer, and I like to refer to myself as a content traffic cop, meaning I don't produce people's content. I help people's content get to the right place at the right time so that they can be successful on social media. So I've super loved the live streaming format for that because it allows me and my team to learn from our clients and then help them take what awesome knowledge they have in their brain and turn it into like more digestible things for their audience to view. So that's how I refer to myself. I always like to share a couple highs and lows of the month. So please feel free to chime in with your own. For me, a super awesome thing is these new features launching on StreamYard. That has been a good, happy work thing in my life. So there's a couple of features that I have been waiting for that other platforms like Restream and Riverside have had that StreamYard hasn't had. And then this month, I swear they dropped like every one of them that I've been waiting for. So I'm really excited. I'm going to share those with you in just a second. Low for the month is September's kind of hard here in Appalachia now. It's been officially tomorrow. It will be a year since Helene came to our area. So there's a lot of feelings in the air this weekend, and a lot of people still in need of bridges, and it's still a little bit chaotic, and I can't believe it's been a year. So if you're a praying type, we could always use a prayers this weekend. Lots of people still hurting. So good morning, Jeff. Good to see you. I was just telling everybody my voice is kind of crazy. Jeff, you know my regular voice. So all right, we're going to launch into new StreamYard features. And if there's any that I missed, because there's been a ton and you know of them, feel free to drop in the comments anything. But I will go through my top 3 that I'm like most excited about. So first of all, notes. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so we can see it. Okay, so there's a notes part of the what do I call it? Like the bar, the toolbar. There's now a notes part. So we are able to add in, like for this stream, for example, I wrote like the things that I'm going to talk about so I can kind of see my summary all in one spot. Oh, James, let's see. High for the month. Going to the 21 Pilots concert. Cool. Low for the month. Not sure. Need to think on that a little bit more. That's good. I'm glad you have to think on it. That's a good thing. Jeff, thank you for all of the support the last year. It's meant a lot. I really, really mean that. So So the notes app, super cool. We can drop in like things that we want to remember. Maybe there's a quote you want to remember or some sort of thing you want to make sure you don't miss in the live stream because it's live. I love that feature. Using it today. Very excited about it. Um, Feature number 2, intro and outro videos. I have a love-hate relationship with this one because I tested it out 2 streams ago. If you're curious about this, I can send you the link to that. But two times ago, which would be what, August stream? No, July's. I'm losing my mind. July stream, I tested this out. Basically, when you hit go live, it will automatically start that intro video. And I'm kind of like, I'm very particular about us starting our streams nice. And so when I did that, I wanted to test it on my own stream versus a client stream because when I hit go live, it started automatically. And if you know StreamYard, you know it takes a couple of seconds for StreamYard to connect, specifically with LinkedIn. YouTube, it seems to connect a little bit quicker for some reason, but LinkedIn has a little bit more of a delay. I would imagine that's because LinkedIn is so like careful about third party tools. So it started my intro video. My intro video is only 30 seconds long. And so by the time that LinkedIn actually saw it, it was like 5 seconds to go. So it was kind of confusing. So if you had an intro video that maybe had a buffer of like 10 seconds before playing, it would work. But for me and my clients, it's something I'm just not going to use until we can figure out how to make it a little bit more seamless. The outro one's pretty cool though, because it will start that outro video immediately instead of having to like hit the outro video and then hit like let it go. Anyways, so it kind of like helps it do that outro video and stop. So that is cool. And then the third feature is QR codes, which we are super stoked about. Like we've been we've worked all of these into like our overlays over the years. And when somebody's live, we can't really add an overlay with a good QR code. But we're trying it out today. Here it is. Yep. So this is a QR code to my LinkedIn Learning course. What we decided we don't love about it is that there's the duck. So I'm hopeful that eventually they'll either let us use our own logos or there won't be the StreamYard like branding on it. But there's a QR code. If you want to try scanning it, I'm curious to see if it works. We literally just learned about it yesterday, added it to the stream today. So very excited about that. All right, we're going to get into guests, our conversation on guests. So finding cool guests. This is actually a lot harder than I gave it credit for. Starting out, you seem to like really have a lot of people that you can draw on. A lot of people in your network that you're like, oh, it'd be fun to talk to this person or that person. But as years go on, or I mean, if you're doing a weekly show, you kind of burn through guests pretty quick. So I like have a couple of suggestions for this because honestly, it's probably one of those things that me and my clients every month that we meet, I'm like, okay, we got to find new guests, got to find new guests. Like it's kind of a continual thing. So ideas is to keep a database of cool people, like people that you want to talk to, maybe somebody's content you come across on LinkedIn, anybody that like you just would like to have more of a conversation with. We have a Notion database that we have built out. And that's kind of where we like pool guests that for my clients who we think maybe would be a good fit. It's been kind of fun to be able to like when a client's like, I'm not sure who to have on. And I'm like, oh, I have an idea and have that database. Another idea that has been super helpful is having like some sort of specific group to draw from. So like, I don't know. It's just like let's see, what would be an example of that? I'm trying to think of something outside of like what my client I'll just share. One of my clients, it's like LinkedIn learning instructors. Like that is like a specific group of people that we can pull guests from. Or another one of my clients is like communication experts. So it's like anybody who really is like in the communication space, we can pull names from. So let's see. Jeff says so many people are doing their own podcast that it must be more difficult now. Yes and no. I do feel like when people are doing their own podcasts, they are more open to joining you on your podcast because they recognize how difficult it is to like kind of keep a show going. But I would agree that there's a lot of people doing podcasts. I am kind of like, I'm kind of in a podcast drought. So if anybody has like a good, like fun podcast to listen to, I don't want to listen to anything heavy. Like fun podcasts, please send them my way because I'm always curious on like how people are doing things in this space. But then sometimes I listen to podcasts that are like political or other things and I'm just like, ugh, I just can't listen to too much of that. So, anyways, there's my ideas for keeping like good guest ideas. Man, I can't get over my voice. This is like distracting for me. um, let's see. Yeah, Jeff, for you, like, yeah, product creators. And I'm sure in your network, like you would have plenty, but you're gonna forget about it once you start like doing the show. So keeping track of those names is super helpful. Okay, so second hurdle with guests is getting the guest to actually come on the show. So obviously, like everybody's busy. Hosting or like being on a podcast tends to kind of drop down the list of priorities. And so how do you get those guests to come on? So make it really interesting for the guests to say yes. So what I mean by this is I have a client, I love what they've done, is there's a PDF that she has um, that shows, let's see, I got lost on my slide, sorry. A PDF that shows like why joining the podcast or the live stream is beneficial to you, the guest that's joining. Like, I have this many followers and this is where I'm ranked on Apple and like this is what you can promote on my show and this is what I expect, kind of like that. Here's the time requirement, for example. That's something I know that a lot of my busy clients, like, they're like, I'd love to be on, but like, I don't have an hour and a half or whatever. Just having that like be very clear. And then a Calendly link. I've talked about this before in my course, but making it easy for the guest to actually book and then choose their own slot because there is nothing more frustrating and annoying than going back and forth of like, what about this date? Oh, well, that was okay 2 days ago, but now it's not. Like, what about this date? And that kind of back and forth is really frustrating for people, myself included. I love a good Calendly link where the guest can just go and pick their own date and time and all of that. Let's see. James said, I just had an idea of a new group of people to tap into for our podcast. Currently is only our supplier clients. Maybe we'd have distributor. I'm struggling today. Partners, sellers, come on to talk about sales wins we have done together. Yeah, that would be really cool. I like that idea a lot. And you could have like two different databases, James, so that you could like make sure you're sprinkling in like the different flavors of guests, so you're not just doing one the whole time. We've struggled with that too, where it's like we get a couple of guests that like in a row talk about the same thing, and we're like, I like just being able to like see like what their area of expertise is or what kind of guests they are, and kind of adding that in. Okay. So obviously this kind of goes in with the Calendly as well, making it like stupid easy for the guests to join you. So make sure there's invite links sent. Make sure that it's like very clear their time commitment on their calendars, and then make it worth their time to join you. So whether that's streaming to their channel, promoting their ideas, adding them a cute little QR code, now that we got this feature, something for the guest, something like that to promote their website, their course, whatever it is, just making sure to really elevate your guests and make them feel like it was worth their time. And next we'll go into how to make sure your guests join on time. This one is really fun. And this has been a problem for everybody. Again, this goes back to that, like how to handle difficult guests. Like this is a difficult attribute that a lot of us have. And I am pointing at myself because I struggle with time management in a big way. And so I'm not even mad when guests are late, but it makes our job really stressful when the guest is not there when it's time to go live. So I have clients handle this different ways. I have one client, she's pro at like, just like if they're not there, we're going to go live and we're going to hope that they join. And we're just going to, like, we're just going to act like they're going to join. Which honestly has worked most of the time. Usually they're only like 5 minutes late or so, and they do end up joining. But sometimes, other guests of mine, we've had to like at the last minute reschedule. Um, it just makes things a little bit difficult. So I have a couple of suggestions to make sure that they're actually joining you on time. So this first one, plan at least 3 months in advance. I know that sounds ridiculous, and it kind of is, but it seems like my team knows, like, it goes by so fast. Like, it always feels like we are, like, 3 months ahead, but it still feels like we're just constantly trying to, like, make sure that all of the ducks are in a row for the show. Let's see. James says, "I have had that. They were about 10 minutes late." Yep, all you could do is roll with it and push through, which is why I always recommend, like, having something that you would talk about by yourself, just, like, in the back of your mind, because with guests not joining or maybe your audience doesn't join and you're planning on, like, Q&A or something, and you don't have enough people joining in the comments, just making sure that you have some substance that you can share just like you would a pre-recorded video. Um, and yes, reminders are key, so I'm gonna talk about that too. Okay, let's see. And James, or Jeff, I'll get to your question in just a second. So, plan at least 3 months in advance, in ahead, um, and then sending reminder emails to the guests. So once before you schedule the show, because nothing's worse than scheduling a show on StreamYard, and I feel like it like jogs the guest memory, like, oh crap, I was supposed to join her at that time. Excuse me. Um, So always ask them beforehand, like, hey, we're really excited for you to join us on such and such date. Always recommend scheduling 2 weeks in advance. So this one always goes out on our team. It always goes out about 2 weeks before the stream. We just say, hey, we're excited for you to join us on such and such date at such and such time. Then we do 1 week in advance. In that email, we always say, like, hey, if you want to stream to your own channel, here's how to using StreamYard's feature. And that's kind of like a gentle reminder, but like kind of some action items as well. And then day of email. So you would think people would remember, but day of, I always recommend like that morning sending something just to be like, today is the day. Pretty sure that's what our email is actually titled, is today is the day. Yeah, I'm getting a yes from Natasha on the back. Okay. So, Jeff, your question, how do you feel about promotions like giveaways during podcasts? I actually super, super love them. We have I have one guest who she has her own swag, and it's really fun. It's fun for everybody that joins. It's really easy with StreamYard. The StreamYard has a giveaway function that makes it super easy. People just drop a hashtag in the comments, and it collects comments from all of the platforms. So not just LinkedIn, but like YouTube, Facebook, all of them will go into the StreamYard like database, and then we do that. You've seen the like wheel, like the wheel of fortune? Not no. Anyways, but the thing that like chooses the people, we love, love, love those promotions. And it seems to like it's really fun for people. This client I'm thinking of, she has a very international audience. And so shipping the actual swag to them has been a bit of a challenge, a little bit, but it's still been really fun and like grown the relationship between her and those who have won in a big way. So Jeff says that client is a pro at making late guests feel like they are on time. Yeah, she is. And that's another thing. She does a very good job of like, you know, easing their anxiety when they're late, too, which is huge when you're live and people can feel the awkwardness. So good point, Jeff. Okay, and then this last one, we were actually as a team talking about it before we got on. We were like, this one's kind of hard. Like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But how to keep your guests on track, like when you're talking with them, how to keep them from rambling, how to keep them, you know, actually sharing good value for your audience. And this is definitely in a scope that like communication, I don't know, skills that like maybe it's a little bit more in depth, right? So, but ideas for this is just making sure to have like some sort of like talking points on hand. Um, I'm mixed on like if you share that with guests because sometimes guests will come like a little bit too prepared if you have these like talking points and it kind of loses that like conversational like I don't know, that conversational feeling of the conversation if they're like too prepared. But just like kind of having, I always recommend having like three main topics that you're going to hit during the conversation. And that I think is totally okay to share with the guests. And it will always go off the rails a little bit um, when the comments come through and people are asking their own comments or their own questions. So, yeah. And then I do love what Kim does with the speed around questions, just like kind of marking the end of the show because a lot of times, especially with hosts who are really good at their job, people will love the talking and they'll get just like in the mode of things and they won't know when to stop. And it's like awkward because we're at like 45 minutes and it's a great conversation and everything, but we all got stuff to do. And just kind of having that like, okay, we're wrapping it up now and leaving that like about 10 minutes before the show actually should end, kind of having like these speed round questions or just like even communicating with the guests like, okay, like last thing I wanted to ask you, or one more thing before we get off, or it's just about time, like kind of cueing the guests that like, okay, we're wrapping up is very helpful because it's always that polite thing. I literally did it with my neighbor yesterday where it was like we were like I needed to go somewhere. She was telling me this whole long story and it's just like that awkward thing where you like don't want to interrupt them but at the same time you're like I got somewhere to go kind of thing. Guest talking over the host. Yes. That one is really hard. I don't even know like that one is very, very difficult, and we've seen it. We've seen it, and it's, kinda one of those things again, back to that communication thing where it's like, some of these, it's just learning communication, and, like, even for myself on streams, like, this skill of being on camera, wildly different than being behind the scenes and producing, and it has been a learning curve, for sure. So, that is all I have today. If you have any questions, if you're watching this on the replay, please send me a DM or like any or drop it here in the comments so we can all learn and kind of go back and forth on. But any questions about how to like handle difficult guests or what to do, maybe a specific situation that you've had, I would love to hear what you've done and what's worked and not worked, that kind of thing. Jeff says homework. Yeah, so we have Kim always does homework, which is really fun, and that's always like a good way to wrap up as well. Kind of having segments to your show, I guess, would be another point of like making sure you have like things planned out a little bit too. So, um, just a reminder, I do have a course on LinkedIn Learning all about StreamYard, how to set up the stream, how to make things smooth. I even talk about those reminder emails in there, things like that, and how to start and stop the stream, which I'm very passionate about, obviously, um, how to make that smooth. So that's all on LinkedIn Learning. Um, and this is to my website, this QR code, which goes to my website. If you are interested in working together, I have a really fun package that we've been doing more and more of, which has been really fun, where it's like two shows where I just help you produce two shows. It's been interesting to see how people have used that package because in my mind, it was like, oh, I'll teach your team how to produce the show and then your team can go and run with it. But I've had a couple of people who have used it just for like special episodes for their like podcast or like certain launches, things like that, like whether they're launching a new course or a new book or things like that. which has been really fun. It's fun for our team to kind of do these one-off projects. And so yeah, we're always wanting to learn with you and be behind the scenes of your show. So thank you so much for hanging in there with me. Thank you for being here, James. I appreciate you being here and asking good questions and listening to my crazy voice. Hopefully next month it won't be so crazy. But thank you, and I will see you probably the end of October sometime. So thank you so much. Bye.